Mr. President, this is the first head of state, Pope Benedict XVI, that you will ever greet on a tarmac. I was stunned to learn this. Why are you going and greeting him at an airstrip? Usually the heads of states come here.
Because he is a really important figure in a lot of ways. One, he speaks for millions. Two, he doesn't come as a politician, he comes as a man of faith. And three, that I so subscribe to his notion that there's right and wrong in life, that moral relativism has the danger of undermining the capacity to have more hopeful and free societies, that I want to honor his convictions as well.
Hello, Brother Bret.
Hello, Brother Jörg.
Fine you're calling.
Yes.
I expected a call from the United States today.
Yes. Yes, we are here together with this wonderful internet connection from across the ocean there.
The Atlantic in this case?
Yes, the Atlantic. And I, for some reason, lost my page marker here in our reading.
We were at page 172.
Wow, we're flying along here.
No, we're not. I thought we were. But yesterday we did some about 11 pages in 2 sessions, so that's still an average of 5 and a little. So
yeah, that's true. It's not super fast. No, it just seems like it is because I'm not the one reading. That's why.
Anyway, we are dealing with chapter 16, if I'm not mistaken, in the chapter count.
Yes.
Proofs of conspiracy. And we have to start on the second full paragraph on page 172. That's where we left off. It's about Adam Weishaupt explaining to us about the Illuminati, who many people who don't listen, first and for all, to our broadcasts, of course, do not recognize as just a front organization of the Jesuits during their time of abolishment, quote unquote abolishment, we have to say, because that was all a forgery, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest forgery of it all is actually that in Roman Catholic canon law it says that the papal bull can never be revised, revoked, or changed. So Dominic Ac Redemptor was the name of the bull that abolished the Jesuits by Pope Clement XIV in 1773, and then Pope Pius VII did another bull in 1814 for the re-establishment of the Jesuits. So they are contradicting themselves wherever they go, wherever they are.
Man, you know what? You know how Tom Fress did a reading of that book by Francis Rooney, The Global Vatican, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had searched him a little bit recently, and I found out that he ran for governor and that he got elected, and he is actually part of the whole government system now. Of course, as if he wasn't already. I mean, he's a Knight of Malta. Come on. But you know. Officially, he is a part of the United States government, and there was some stupid interview he did, or a number of interviews he did, and I was just listening, very, very briefly, just skimming over it, and the guy is using terms like ends justify the means.
Really?
Really. I'll send it to you.
Oh, I'd like to hear that. Yeah.
I bet you would. I was surprised.
That
but then
these
again, I wasn't.
quote-unquote
Yeah, please.
That these quote-unquote highly sophisticated and educated people are not the smartest ones is that you saw, of course, in George W. Bush.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that George W. Bush played his role to the perfection.
Yes.
He took us by the nose by acting as if he was an idiot. And in the same time, we are the idiots because we haven't seen that we were being led to the devil directly.
Yeah, through Skull and Bones.
Know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Yeah, this whole policy he did, of course, after 9/11.
Oh, man. Yeah,
people
absolutely.
were laughing.
Oh, there are things they had to
about,
do, Jörg. I don't know if you're familiar, with the politics here where I live, but it doesn't really matter. This is how the world works. But I'm just telling you, there were warning signs long, long before Bush came along. Or, actually, I should say the World Trade Center went down. Here in Minnesota, there was a very active politician named Paul Wellstone. And Paul Wellstone was basically killed with all his family in an airplane while he was going to a funeral up in northern Minnesota. And there are a few people that were really ticked about it, and I was one of them. And you just don't forget these things, Jörg, And because, politics is all just kind of a stage show anyway, It's the left and the right paradigm, You always have the left and the right and the left and the right. And, oh, yeah, someone's got to play the part of the devil there, and they switch hands all the time, and you never really get the truth because you're not looking in the right place. But they had to take certain people out, and they had to take Paul Wellstone out because he was not at all part of the program with what's his name, Vice President Dick Cheney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a long story.
It's the same. It's the same that it was in 1912, 1913.
Yeah.
With the sinking of the Titanic. There were a few people on that ship who were not accord with the who didn't agree on founding a central bank, Rothschild-led.
Yeah.
And exactly. That means Vatican-led central bank in the United States of America, like Astor and Strauss and that other guy. I don't come to his name right now.
That's right.
And they had to be taken care of.
Now, the guys I was working with at the time were actually really happy that Wellstone was taken care of, and he died. They were actually joking about it. It made me sick. But
the only point that I wanted to make, Bret, is that George W. Bush had maybe some appearances on the outside where people were laughing. Oh, look, he is drunk. Oh, look what he says. He's such an idiot.
Yep.
But when you look back on his 8 years that he was the American president, you can see that he maybe did that just to distract from the things that he did that were so evil that people just didn't notice the important stuff.
Oh, I agree with you. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah,
it's
that's
just
right.
A distraction, to take your attention away from the stuff that really matters.
Yeah, it works pretty good too.
When you see a president, quote unquote, drunken on this or that occasion, and people laugh about it, they don't even recognize that the Patriot Act is passed a few weeks after 9/11, and they don't ask themselves questions: how is this even possible for a paper that thick and having a content of what the Patriot Act has? And I wrote in another part already what Patriot Act stands for. And then people just don't see it. It's just a distraction. And I think he worked it out to perfection. He is not dumb. He was very, very smart in what he did and the way that he did it.
Yeah.
We are the dumb people because we think that he was just dumb and superficial. No, that's not the case. And anyway, superficial, superstitious, that brings me back to Barbelon, because we have
Please.
already done a few minutes talking about the stuff. Now let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the book, Proofs of Conspiracy, chapter 16 of Codeword Barbelon, Danger and the Vatican, the Sons of Loyola and their plans for world domination, that had been quote-unquote interrupted between 1773 and 1814 with the abolishment of the order, but there was, of course, a safety net built before that abolishment, and that safety net we call today the Illuminati, that was founded by Jesuit professor at Jesuit University in Ingolstadt in Bayern and Bavaria, Adam Weishaupt. And we continue on the second full paragraph on page 172, where we read, "It was the acknowledgement of these diabolical enterprises," and if you want to know which diabolical enterprises, then please look up the broadcast before this one and you will learn about that, "that prompted Alexander Addison, president of the county courts of the Fifth Circuit of the state of Pennsylvania, to issue the following warning, quote, "An absolute and despotic tyranny by the sect of the Illuminati directed by Weishaupt has the daring ambition of ruling the whole world. That there are secret societies in regular subordination which direct the movement of vast bodies of people, no man who looks at the results of the elections will doubt. That the press is used to promote the views of such societies will not be doubted. It is evident that every exertion is made to fill public stations and places of instruction with men who will promote this spirit and bring it into action." Unquote. Dear reader, gigantic confederacies have been formed. Secret societies, humanitarian organizations, trade monopolies, even religious organizations claiming allegiance to heaven, but all having as their purpose the setting up of a one-world system of government. But who is now giving a word of warning against these secret combinations that seek to overthrow the freedoms of all lands, all nations, and all peoples? Who will dare speak up? Well, I can answer that in a jiffy. Real, true, Bible-believing, Jesus-following, 1611 authorized King James Version Bible-reading Christians. But let's continue. Who will dare speak up? Who will the press do it? No. No. On this most important subject, the great American press is mute as a sentinel strangled at his watch. And so the masses sleep on in ignorance of the fact an alarm has been sounded. Of the fact an alarm has been sounded. Who will now sound the alarm? Who will give the last words of warning? Joseph Addison wrote, quote, "When vice prevails and impious men bear sway as presidents, prime ministers, and senators, the post of honor is a private station." Unquote. But the warning must be given, for as Abraham Lincoln said, quote, "Man must not care how and where he dies, provided he dies at the post of honor and duty." Unquote. Benjamin Disraeli, Lord Beaconsfield, who became prime minister in 1868 and ran, by the way, for 2 terms of each 6 years, speaking in the House of Commons July 14, 1856, hinted at the source of this conspiracy. Quote, "There is in Italy," he names the place by all names, "there is in Italy a power which we seldom mention in this house. I mean, the secret societies. It's useless to deny, because it is impossible to conceal, that a great part of Europe, the whole of Italy and France, and a great portion of Germany, and that is the south, to say nothing over other countries, is covered with a network of those secret societies. That I apprehend is a fact which no man acquainted with the events of 1848 will deny." Unquote. Note, Disraeli spoke of a power. Do you scoff at these revelations? Are you one of those who say that there is no such thing as a universal conspiracy? I ask you this. When individuals or groups act in concert and work clandestinely and collectively behind the scenes toward a common goal to subvert governments, what is that called if not a conspiracy? In the legal world, to prove a conspiracy, the prosecution must establish three things. First, an agreement to accomplish an illegal objective. Second, one or more acts in furtherance of the illegal purpose. And three, the intent to commit the illegal objective. Unquote. It was so held in United States versus Penegos. For some numbers, that's not interesting here. Mm-hmm. Over 8 years ago, Sir Winston Churchill warned, quote, from the days of Spartacus, and we know that is the AKA of Adam Weishaupt and the Illuminati order. Interesting. From the days of Spartacus to those of Karl Marx, this worldwide conspiracy for the overthrow of civilization and reconstruction of society has been steadily growing. Do you still doubt this fact? To those who wish to sleep, sleep on. But let us not be naive at our gross expense. And this finishes chapter 16. We were quite at the end there.
Yeah,
and
we were.
It is very interesting that we really look at the proofs of the conspiracy. And I tell you one thing. A conspiracy theory only remains a theory when you don't look at the facts. Because it is a conspiracy, it is of course not out in the open, because a conspiracy is never out in the open. That's what the term conspiracy actually means, to conspire. It is to betray. Yes. It is to lure into something. It is to betray you. And nobody comes up to you and says, hey, Bret, I'm going to betray you.
Yeah.
And then does it.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Right.
They do it, and then afterwards you wonder who did it and why did he do it and how did it all come to pass.
Yeah, that's right.
You are never warned on beforehand that you are being robbed, for example.
Yeah.
That you are being betrayed.
That's right.
Yeah?
Yes.
When you are married, and I guess a lot of people can vouch for that.
Yes.
When you are married, your wife doesn't come one evening to you and says, hey, darling, I'm going to go out fornicate with some other guy, you know? Bye-bye. And when I come back,
no doubt,
I'm filled up. I don't need you anymore. Does she say that? No, she says, oh, honey, I have a nice evening out with the girls tonight. I will be home late, so don't wait up. But I'm going to see you tomorrow. Bye. And 9 months later,
yeah,
when you are having bad luck, you're becoming a father of a child that you never helped to conceive. Mm-hmm. You know?
Right.
Also a conspiracy, right? Betrayal is a conspiracy. So you have to look at the facts. So at the moment when you see something happen, you have to ask questions. Mm-hmm. But we are today raised in a world mm-hmm. where asking questions is, quote unquote, politically incorrect. Where asking questions is the same as all of a sudden not taking the authority seriously. But when the authorities of the country, the government of your country tells you that they are doing the best for your well-being, you have to believe them. Because they say it. They swore an oath. They swore an oath to protect me. The American president swore an oath to protect the country of the United States from enemies within and without. So I'm going to believe him. Okay. But you have to look at the incident, and then from that incident you have to see how it was fomented and how it came into being and who were the people behind it. And you cannot only look at one side. And that's what people, for example, with 9/11 in the beginning did. They only looked at one side. They looked at that the official conspiracy theory of the American government. Yes, the American government is selling you conspiracy theories. Why? Because very shortly after 9/11 happened, not only did they dug out a passport of one of the so-called Islamic guys of the Muslims who were sitting on one of the planes that allegedly crashed into the towers, but also they said that Osama bin Laden was responsible for that. And they said that these Muslims operated 3 planes and flew them into the 2 towers and brought these towers down by that without telling anybody on beforehand that they were doing this. So when these 19 camel jockeys, as I like to call them, really did that without warning everybody, what is that? A conspiracy. And the American government just tells you that conspiracy. Why? Because it suits her. Because when you believe that conspiracy that the American government tells you, you will not be looking in any other direction. But you will be satisfied on everything that you see on the television on it. You will be satisfied by everything that you read in every newspaper about it. You will be satisfied on every magazine, like Time magazine or whatever writes about it.
Man.
You will be pleased by every book that you read in the history books later, what they tell about that incident. Now, in the incident of 9/11, maybe it's not yet in history books, but 9/11 is not the first time a case like this appeared. 9/11 is nothing else but a Trojan horse. How old is the Trojan horse? What happened with Pearl Harbor? What happened with the Lusitania? What happened with that ship with the Spanish War in at the end of the 19th century?
Yeah,
the Liberty,
that's right.
or something it was called, right? That they sank or tried to sink before Havana in Cuba.
Yep.
I mean, we have incidences and incidences and incidences all through human history where it is all dealing about conspiracies. And so many years later, these conspiracies are covered up, and then they are even taught as conspiracies. But when you at that moment, took your finger and pointed, that is a conspiracy, everybody turned around and said, you're a madman. And that's the same that happened with 9/11. It is a conspiracy theory, what the American government sold to the Americans and sold to the whole world. And because they assume authority, they don't allow any digging into the real facts of that. And I could even start speaking about a whole other conspiracy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
during the
think
Second World War and Germany and all that stuff. But I'm not going into that.
No.
Do your own research on that, and then let's see what you come up with. Yeah? But it is very important that we understand that we have just been reading a little chapter in Codeword Barbelon, which is called Proofs of Conspiracy. Actually, it should have been named Proofs of Conspiracy Theory. But it doesn't, because P.D. Stuart deals with the fact, hey, that at the moment when you unveil the facts of the conspiracy theory, it is not a conspiracy theory anymore. It is a conspiracy.
That's it. Yep.
Now, every Bible-believing Christian, the whole Bible is a conspiracy. I mean, it deals over a conspiracy, nothing else.
Yeah.
It is the conspiracy of the fallen angel from heaven, of Satan, to make the world, which is not of his own, to make it his own. Because our Creator God says the world is the world is mine, and everything in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did he say? From my throne, and the world is my footstool, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's
the
right.
world is his. And the world is his. And what did Satan do? Satan said, no. Hey, God, you gotta listen to me. I will exalt myself above the stars of the Lord, above the congregation, and I will be as the Most High. It's not yours, it's mine, and I'm going to take it from you. What did God say? Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't need you anymore. And everybody who believes you, go with him. Into perdition you will go. Hey, I will leave you some fun in the meantime. You can try whatever you want because I have my people who believe in me and don't believe in you. And with the rest, you do as you please. But when the time has come, I will present to you the final invoice, and then you gotta pay, and you gotta go to the sides of the pit. The whole Bible is a conspiracy, or deals with a conspiracy, not is a conspiracy, but deals with a conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Like it or not.
Yep. No
and
choice.
Just in this part of the conspiracy, as long as we are caught in this fleshly body, in this fleshly, sinful piece of crap, we have to try to get along in the system to search for our eternal salvation, which is by grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, who with his grace pulls us to him and washes us white with the blood that he shed 2,000 years ago on the cross. Few days later, after he died, he rose. He became living again because the Father showed the power that he has to revive, let's say, his Son, to resurrect his Son. And he is the first fruits of the resurrection. And he went up to heaven, and there he is right now, and having a look at us and being so glad that everybody who finally sees through the deception that Satan spun with his conspiracy theory here on earth. Maybe some comments of you, Bret?
Oh, I was just thinking, this book that I just finished making a PDF of.
Why, the Great Exodus.
Yes, the Great Exodus, or the Time of the End. That book has a lot of very interesting and profound statements in it. And you can go to my little teaser video and the other video and find my link to that book and read it yourself. And, I haven't really spent much time with it, Jörg, but it looks like a real interesting book because it was predicting, he was predicting things in it, what the Bible was saying in advance, right? Things that haven't happened in his day and age. This is what, 140, 150 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always interesting to look at the historic faith that that the writers had in that time, because they really were able to see much more clearly than today, because our principles have been so eroded here. We've really went through a lot of problems, and we have suffered, and we're going to suffer more.
We will have a look at that book that you dug out there later.
Yes,
and it is wonderful. It is wonderful, the work of preparation that you did on that already. But if you don't have any comment on what I just said, then I just want to continue now on chapter 17.
No, I think what you said is perfect. Let's go ahead.
Chapter 17 on page 174 is called Phi Beta Kappa, Literary Societies and Bill Clinton's Masonic Membership. I have to change my light here a little bit. Excuse me.
Sure.
I need a little bit more light to read better.
Bill Clinton's Masonic Membership. Aye.
Quote from Adam Weishaupt: A literary society is the most proper form for the introduction of our order into any state where we are yet strangers. Unquote. And from the Bible we read in Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 2, quote, Declare ye among the nations, and publish and set up a standard, publish and conceal not. Unquote. To return to the present day, it affords a curious glimpse into the methods used by the Illuminati in the advancement of its global mission to mark the words of Adam Weishaupt, quote, A literary society, said Weishaupt, is the most proper form for the introduction of our order into any state where we are yet strangers. Unquote. Now, soon after Weishaupt's new Illuminati, and he puts the word new between quotation marks, Why does he do that? Well, you, of course, dear listener, understand that because new is put in quotation marks because the Illuminati was just another name for the Jesuit order. Same wine in old bottles. Or old wine in new bottles. That's the way. Yeah.
Sure.
Soon after Weishaupt's quote-unquote new Illuminati was created in 1776, he wrote to a friend about the secret plans of the order in these words, quote, "The great strength of our order, the Illuminati, lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always concealed by another name and another occupation. The form of a learned or literary society, which is a sorority, is best suited to our purpose, and had Freemasonry not existed, this cover would have been employed. And it may be much more than a cover. It may be a powerful engine in our hands. By establishing reading societies, like book clubs, and taking these under our direction, we may turn the public mind which way we will. In like manner, we must try to obtain an influence in the military academies. This may be of mighty consequence. A literary society is the most proper form for the introduction of our order into any state where we are yet strangers. Mark this fact," unquote. Now, this is a very important quote because we read this on this one page already 3 times. I'm going to read it to you a 4th time. Understand, please, what Adam Weishaupt says here. A literary society is the most proper form, but not the only form, for the introduction of our order into any state where we are yet strangers. Now, this is most important. Weishaupt and his collaborators devised to set up quote-unquote learned literary societies as a front for their quote-unquote purpose. Does history record any such learned secret literary society formed at or soon after 1776? And if so, does it continue on to this day? Did Weishaupt's literary societies survive beyond the 18th century? I invite the reader to consider closely the orders known as the Crown and Dagger, the Seventh Society, Phi Beta Kappa Society, Scroll and Key, Skull and Bones, the latter of which we say a great deal more later on. Consider also the lesser-known Bull's Blood Secret Society at Rutgers University, or Rutgers, known as Lodge 443, established in 1834 by Frederick T. Frelinghuysen, William A. Newell, and Joseph Philo Bradley, a former justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. A former justice of the U.S. Supreme Court is the founder of a secret society. How does that mix with your education and understanding of what judges should be? Other interesting literary societies of high academia can be found at the renowned Leland Stanford University, founded by Senator Leland Stanford in 1891. According to Albert C. Stevens, Senator Leland Stanford was himself a Freemason. Today, Stanford University has 15 literary fraternities, including the following: Alpha Epsilon Pi, Alpha Delta Phi Society, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity, Delta Kappa Epsilon, Delta Epsilon, and the Beta Chi chapter of Sigma Nu, which was instituted at Stanford University in November 1891. A chapter was formed at the University of California, Berkeley, the following year. Now, just a little note here for you, Bret, before I'm going to read on. I don't have the time to read all the footnotes when they are there, and I just want to ask you to go into the footnotes during my reading, and whenever something interesting is in there, interrupt me and bring us the footnote to our attention, okay? These orders or societies are part of the Ivy League of American universities and were formed as literary societies soon after 1776. This, you will recall, is exactly what Weishaupt said he would use as one of the mediums for gaining access to the elite of society as well as future statesmen. Quote, "A literary society is the most proper form for the introduction of our order." Unquote. For the fourth time in 2 pages, this quote pops up. The goal was to monopolize all institutions of higher learning and by these means subvert the minds of the people. The Catholic Encyclopedia of all encyclopedias confirms as much. Quote, "The purpose of this and other regulations was to enable the order, meaning the Illuminati, to attain its object by securing for it a controlling influence in all directions. All official organs, the press, schools, seminaries, were to be brought as far as possible under the influence of the organization, and princes themselves were to be surrounded by a legion of enlightened literary men. A complete transformation would thus be effected. Public opinion would be controlled." Public opinion would be controlled. Interesting, huh?
Oh, I missed out on some really good data there. I got a phone call I had to take.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I'm sure you had some profound things you ran into here. This is always something I've always wondered about, Jörg, is what's the deal with all these, what do you call these again? This Phi Beta Kappa sororities.
Yeah, fraternities, sororities, literary
whatever you want to call them.
societies.
Yeah, I've never really got the gist of it till now. A little bit, you know.
Well, I tell you, Bret, most people who are going to universities and are being part of these societies don't have a clue what the societies actually
it's all about,
are.
oh, well, they drink. Hey, that's great. All right, let's party.
We have to consider, Bret, that you always have the esoteric and the exoteric knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
And most of the members are just told what is the outside policy, the esoteric knowledge.
Exoteric
and
and
the
esoteric,
and the exoteric,
Yeah,
and
that's
the esoteric, the inner knowledge, is only for the initiated.
Yeah.
And those are not everybody. So you can go to a university, you can join a student club called Phi Beta Kappa or whatever name it has.
Yep.
And you can be in there and drink along and fornicate around and do all the stuff that students do. You know,
that's what they do.
Did you ever realize, Bret, that these guys who are, and girls too, that these people who go to universities and do the most abominable things in the eyes of the Lord, those are later becoming our rulers?
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely. Hey, you know, there's an old saying that someone I used to listen to would say a lot, is that the scum rises to the top.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
And in German we have a saying, the fish fängt am Kopf an zu stinken, which means that the fish begins to stink on the head.
Oh, yeah.
On the top. Yeah?
Sure.
And that's the way it is. So because you were away for the phone call, I'm going to I'm going to repeat my little question that I had for you, Bret, because you were not listening.
You had something about the Catholic Encyclopedia, and then I lost it.
Oh, I said something about the footnotes. That I'm not going to concentrate on the footnotes in this book.
No.
But I ask you during my reading that you have a look at the footnotes, and if something interesting is there, then you can bring that up by interrupting me.
I've been looking at them. I have been.
Okay.
But
Okay, that's
generally, you're really fast with it, Jörg, and you catch right on.
Yeah,
so-
sometimes I am.
Yeah, I'd
Sometimes I am.
say, but I'll still keep my eyes open. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's all I'm asking, Brett.
Yes.
Now let's continue on page 176. I mean, we still have time, or was that phone
Please,
call
no.
calling you to any action?
No, it's fine. No,
Oh,
not at all.
okay,
Not at all.
fine.
We're good.
The next part of this chapter is called Phi Beta Kappa, a giant evil. It is said that between 1846 and 1850 at the University of Michigan, that all the fraternities that had sprung from Phi Beta Kappa were called a giant evil. And yet, John Addison Porter, private secretary to President McKinley, states, quote, "The most prominent characteristic of American undergraduate social life is the college fraternity," unquote. Why did the men who founded Phi Beta Kappa believe its creation necessary? And why were all the offsprings of Phi Beta Kappa considered a giant evil? From where did the idea for the Phi Beta Kappa literary society actually originate? Albert C. Stevens, in his Cyclopedia of Fraternities, referring to Phi Beta Kappa and its offsprings, states, quote, "The Greek letter fraternities antedate all other existing secret societies in America, except the fraternity of Freemasonry," unquote. Phi Beta Kappa is from the Greek Philosophia Bio Kupuerutes, which means philosophy is the guide of life. That is the Greek teaching of Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle.
Yeah.
That is Greek philosophy. And that is why that last beast has the stripes of the leopard.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reference to the Grecian Empire.
Mm-hmm.
It has also the feet of a lion, which is resembling Babylon, and it has also features of Medo-Persia, but it is absolutely built on Greece because that's the body.
Sure.
And
Got it.
and the angelic doctor of the Roman Catholic Church, Thomas Aquinas, in his work Summa Theologica, refers always to philosophy, to Greek philosophy.
Oh, man.
There it comes from.
Wow.
So when you are asked if you want to be a member of Phi Beta Kappa or any other kind of society that even uses these Greek expressions, I would run if I was you.
Yeah. I would say
The Phi
Yeah, I would say quick philosophy is the misguidance of life.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. It's the other way around. Just flip it around and you're fine.
The Phi Beta Kappa Academic Honor Society was founded by John Heath, Thomas Smith, Richard Booker, Armistead Smith, and John Jones. But Heath was the moving spirit and its first president. It is the oldest college Greek letter secret society in the United States of America. Membership is only granted to approximately 1% of college graduates. As such, it is considered to be the most prestigious and learned of all college honor societies. Illuminated history of Phi Beta Kappa we deal with now. It all started on a Thursday evening, December 5th, 1776, when 5 young undergraduates had dinner in the Apollo Room at the Raleigh Tavern in Williamsburg, VA, Virginia, right?
That's right.
They were members of the notorious Flathead Club, organized at William and Mary College in 1750. On this particular night, however, these 5 men decided to form a secret organization patterned after that of one formed in Germany. They called it Phi Beta Kappa. It was the first American secret society bearing a Greek letter name, and it was formed in the same year Weishaupt announced his Illuminati order, 1776. Later, the order devised two signs, quote, a salutation of the clasp of the hands, together with an immediate stroke across the mouth with the back of the same hand, and a return with the hand used by the saluted, unquote. These new gestures were for the purposes of distinguishing Phi Beta Kappa members in any foreign country or place. Soon after its formation, writes Thomas Smith, 27 governing laws were presented, quote, as proper and most conducive to the advantage of our growing fraternity, unquote. All concerns were expressed in these laws: dues and fines, meeting times, qualifications for new members, officers and their duties, conduct and restrictions, as well as the punishments for violations, purposes of the society. A Jesuit writer says, quote, the ritual of Phi Beta Kappa typically includes an explanation of the secret signs and symbols and the meaning of the secret motto represented by the Greek letters of the fraternity, unquote. Until his initiation, the pledge is given limited knowledge of the fraternity's secrets. Only on completing a period of probation is he permitted to take his initiation. It is during the initiation that the candidate takes his final oath to the fraternity and is given additional signs and the secret brother's password. Many of the college fraternities have adopted the same rituals and constitutions in imitation of the Masonic model. The spring 2005 new member education program of Alpha Delta Phi states of its parent organization, quote, Phi Beta Kappa, like the Masonic order, was esoteric, with a badge, a grip, an oath of fidelity, a ritual, and an idealistic and spiritual purpose, unquote. The Phi Beta Kappa oath reads, quote, I, insert your name, I do swear on the holy evangelists of Almighty God, or otherwise as calling the Supreme Being to attest this my oath, declaring that I will with all my possible efforts endeavor to prove true and deeply attached to this our growing fraternity, in keeping, holding, and preserving all secrets that pertain to my duty, and for the promotion and advancement of its internal welfare, etc., unquote. But what is the real antecedent of this literary Masonic society? Henry Wade Rogers, writing that in 2005 Spring Program Bulletin, hints at a most interesting connection between the formation of Phi Alpha Kappa in 1776 and the Illuminati Literary Society set up by the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt. Quote, the Greek letter societies of the American universities are secret organizations of brotherhoods, who form these brotherhoods for literary and social purposes. The oldest of these organizations, the Phi Beta Kappa, was established as early as 1776. Unquote. I note here that the FHC Society was in fact the precursor to Phi Beta Kappa. The year 1776 was the very year that the Jesuit-trained Adam Weishaupt founded the Order of the Illuminati. Weishaupt, you will recall, wrote, quote, a learned or literary society is best suited to our purpose, unquote. What significance is this to Phi Beta Kappa? In the above-mentioned Spring Program Bulletin, Henry Wade Rogers states, quote, the large place these organizations have come to occupy in the American universities can be inferred from the fact that there are now more than 800 chapters of these societies in our colleges, and that their total membership, including their alumni, is more than 100,000. Unquote. Rogers goes on to make a subtle but direct link between the German Illuminated literary societies and the American college fraternities. He states, quote, In Germany, which is the birthplace of Adam Weishaupt's order, the Illuminati in Bavaria, south of Germany, and America, student societies form an important feature of university life. These organizations influence in no small degree the daily life of their members. It was a period when literary societies of an exclusive and secret nature were being formed. The origins of this movement are not easy to trace, partly because the members could not disclose some of the mysteries, but Baird's Manual of American College Fraternities presents the bare facts. Baird suggests that the model for all three was Phi Beta Kappa, established on December 5th, 1776. Originally, Phi Beta Kappa, like the Masonic order, was esoteric, with a badge, a grip, an oath of fidelity, a ritual, and an idealistic and spiritual purpose. In the interval between 1776 and 1821, literary societies grew in importance. Unquote. The Alpha Delta Phi, an offshoot of Phi Beta Kappa, speech given to the new college students ends by telling the new recruits that if they honor the Kappa fraternity, the quote-unquote older brothers would honor and reward them. Quote, membership in Alpha Delta Phi is a lifelong experience. Now you maybe study there for a few years, but membership in that fraternity is a lifelong experience. If you are understanding, your attention will be rewarded. You will win the friendship of an older brother, and that friendship may be of great value to you. Treat each alumnus as a brother who is in part responsible for the opportunities that you are experiencing and for opportunities you may receive in the future. Unquote. Extraordinary. Just extraordinary. Those who are understanding are promised rewards by means of opportunities they may receive in the future. The same 2005 spring program also states, quote, the crescent, an Islamic symbol, you know, that half moon, is our coat of arms. Indeed, the very first song taught to the new members of Alpha Delta Phi is, quote, there's beauty in yon crescent moon, unquote. And from 1880 to 1885, the Executive Council published a magazine called The Star and Crescent. This was superseded by another magazine, Xiping. However, the undergraduate newsletter, originally called The Field General, was changed in 1980 to The Star and Crescent. Is there any Islamic theme there? The choice of the word Phi in Phi Beta Kappa and Alpha Delta Phi is also very interesting. In the occult understanding of the cosmos, Phi is the mathematical principle of the pentacle, the divine proportion, sacred geometry, or golden mean used by both the ancient Greeks and Egyptians for designing their buildings and monuments. The golden mean is intimately tied to the pentagon and five-pointed star, the symbol used by those who practice Wicca, which is witchcraft. All of the above literary societies or sororities or fraternities are Masonic. As Albert Stevens observed, quote, some of the better known college fraternities give unmistakable evidence to those of their members in the position to judge of having been rummaged in the bureau drawers of Freemasonry, the Templars, Knights of Malta, and other orders, while the earlier Alpha Delts were evidently inspired by what they knew of Royal Arch Masonry. Unquote.
Wow.
Now we come to American former President William Jefferson Clinton. Bill Clinton and other learned agents of the Great Secret Society. Phi Beta Kappa, huh?
Mhm.
Notwithstanding Phi Beta Kappa being called a giant evil, this has not detracted from its appeal. Famous members include William Howard Taft, who is the founder of Skull and Bones, George H.W. Bush, Nelson Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller Jr., Alger Hiss, Henry Kissinger, Pat Robertson, Senator Joseph Lieberman, Elliot Spitzer, Condoleezza Rice, William Jefferson Clinton, and Supreme Court Justices Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Samuel Alito, former Chief Justices William Rehnquist and John Marshall, and the current Chief Justice John Roberts. All of these justices, except John Marshall, are Catholics, Universalists.
Mhm.
Earlier, I promised to furnish proof of Bill Clinton's Masonic membership and affiliations. Here it is. From a notice posted in the Jerusalem Post, November 1994, by the Grand Lodge of the State of Israel, you will see it is addressed to the Masons of Peace. Yitzhak Rabin, Prime Minister of Israel, King Hussein of Jordan, and the Honorable Bill Clinton, President of the United States. And then in this book is a picture that Bret will, I hope, put up in the video at the appropriate moment.
All right, I'll have to take a note. Yep.
This advertisement, as you can see, refers to President Bill Clinton as one of the Masons of Peace and ends with warm fraternal congratulations. And the signed Ephraim Fox, President of Israel Order of Masons. Not only is Bill Clinton a high-ranking Freemason, a Rhodes Scholar, a Phi Beta Kappa, and an ex-Yale Law School dropout, Yale is the headquarters of Skull and Bones, his alma mater is Georgetown University, the first Jesuit university in the United States of America. Impeccable credentials for any good double agent of the secret society. But why should it matter to us whether or not people, particularly our leaders, are Freemasons or belong to one of the many literary societies? Why should we care if people like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, George Bush, Barack Obama, whose presidential running mate Joseph R. Biden is a staunch Roman Catholic, and Condoleezza Rice are members of Phi Beta Kappa, Alpha Beta Kappa, or Skull and Bones? Well, according to the eminent Freemason Arthur Edward Wade, it is because these secret societies frequently, quote, determine in the depths, i.e. behind the scenes, the changes that take place on the surface, unquote. Moreover, virtually every one of the literary societies or sororities or fraternities at American universities are offsprings of that giant evil called Phi Beta Kappa, which was formed as an American echo to Adam Weishaupt's conspiratorial Illuminati order. These societies require that their members take oaths, pledging allegiance to organizations other than the state or country of their domicile. On July 4th, 1798, Timothy Dwight, president of Yale University, warned the people of New Haven about the Illuminati's use of American politics, religion, and education to further their sinister ends. Quote, shall we introduce them into our government, our schools, our families? Shall our sons become the disciples of Voltaire, a French Jesuit-trained writer, and the dragoons of Murat, or our daughters, the concubines of the Illuminati? Unfortunately, many of the leading families of America have become disciples of Illuminism through the system of college sororities or fraternities. The most prominent characteristic of American undergraduate social life But Albert C. Stevens reminded us all of the college fraternities have been extensively borrowed from Freemasonry. Here is the full text of his earlier quote. Some of the better-known college fraternities give unmistakable evidence to those of their members in a position to judge of having been rummaged in the bureau drawers of Freemasonry. Art Fellowship, Forestry, the Templars, Knights of Malta, and other quote-unquote orders for ritualistic finery. Zeta Psi was founded by Freemasons. Delta Psi, Columbia 1847, was dressed up by someone who had access to rituals of the bastard Masonic rites of Mizraim and Memphis. Psi Upsilon hung up its harp low on the tree of symbolic masonry, while its offspring, Theta Delta Chi, went far afield and returned with the forestic legend, while the earlier Alpha Delts were evidently inspired by what they knew of Royal Arch Masonry and the Red Cross degree as conferred in commanderies of Masonic Knights Templars. Unquote. Sadly, however, as Stevens writes on page 15 on his book, The Cyclopedia of Fraternities, quote, very few among the 6 million members of nearly 300 secret societies, fraternities, and sisterhoods in the United States of America are familiar with the origin or history, unquote, of these organizations. Again, listen closely. Very few of the 6 million members of nearly 300 secret societies, fraternities, and sisterhoods in the United States are familiar with the origin or history. That means people join just to join. They don't even inform themselves what they are joining. And that is the problem. Doing your own research, even in things like this.
Yeah.
When you don't do that, you will be lured into a trap that you will then never find a way to get out of anymore. And that's the problem. Very few among 6 million members of nearly 300 secret societies, fraternities, and sisterhoods in the United States are familiar with the origin or history of these organizations. And yet, he continues, a little research will reveal, and that's what I mean, I didn't read this, but what I say, do your own research.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, a little research will reveal that these college fraternities are the legacy of the Jesuit Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Bavarian Illuminati. How profound was the observation of French historian Louis Blanc when he wrote, Weishaupt was, quote, one of the profoundest conspirators who have ever existed, unquote. Mm-hmm. Lest the reader is inclined to think lightly of this fact, of leaders like Bill Clinton and others belonging to these Masonic organizations, I share a statement from the respected Masonic professor, Manly P. Hall. He wrote an absolute encyclopedia on Freemasonry, The Secret of All Ages, I think it's called.
Yeah.
I have that book on my computer, and believe me, I tried for, I think, 40 or 50 pages to get into that, but every time after half a page I fell asleep. This is so boring,
dry
to read.
Yeah.
You have to see it for yourself to understand it. But really, I tried my best, but I couldn't get to it.
No.
Anyway, what does Manly P. Hall state here? Interesting to know, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Come back to our next reading, where we will continue, and then I will read the quote what Manly P. Hall has to say about this. Because we have come to an hour and we have read some pages, and it is quite taking a little bit out of me and probably also out of you to listen and understand all that. And I want to leave you here, and Manly P. Hall's quote is something that we will read next time. We will continue on page 183 of the book Codeword Barbelon. Up to here, I, Jörg from Joggler 66, thank you, Bret, for the invitation to come back to the reading and reading this along with me. and supporting me in it and putting the videos up of this, working on that. And I thank everybody who listened and watched this video, and also for your contribution in the form of comments, research, or whatever. And until next time, Juggler66 from Hour of the Truth said, God bless you and bye-bye.
Thank you, Jörg, so much for this reading, and it's a very, very in-depth learning experience, traveling down this road, reading this book, learning lots of very intriguing things that, well, you know, I never really was interested in any of these fraternities, sororities, or whatever. But of course, I was really never interested in getting a degree too much anyway, you know, when I was going to school myself. So, you know, it really comes with the territory, I guess. But hopefully this will be some really good information for those of you that have had experiences that relate to these types of things. And in America, there is lots of this. I assure you that. So again, thank you, Jörg, for your time, and I will catch up with everyone also in the future, I hope, and we get these videos up soon, and hope to be seeing you there in the next coming videos to come and our next reading of Codeword Barbelon. So God bless you, and bye for now.
And I'm going to remind his Holy Father how important his voice is, and making it easier for politicians like me to be able to kind of stand and defend our positions that are, I think, you know, very important positions to take.
Mr. President, final question.
Yes, sir.
You said famously, when you looked into Vladimir Putin's eyes, you saw his soul.
Yeah.
When you look into Benedict XVI's eyes, what do you see?
God.
Your Excellency, thank you for being here today. My question is, since the discussion is about heresy, one heretic who comes to mind is Martin Luther, whose 500th anniversary of the Reformation the Pope will be commemorating very shortly. On an airplane interview, the Pope recently said that Martin Luther did not err on the issue of justification. What is your response to the Lutheran heresy and on the issue of justification and the upcoming ecumenical events, and how do traditional Catholics respond to the reports that are coming out?
We have already had an infallible response to the errors of Martin Luther, the Council of Trent. The teaching of the Council of Trent about the errors of Luther has been an infallible ex cathedra, and the comments of the Pope in the plane are not ex cathedra.